Hello everybody, nice to have you here. Today is the 7th episode of our Adobe Builder Basics, and in this episode we want to subscribe in Adobe Commerce event and receive it in our App Builder. And if you missed all previous sessions, feel free to check them out, because we during the session developed the module step by step, and now we have the module ready, we have it in Adobe Commerce Admin, now we want to connect it on events level. So what are the Adobe Commerce events? If you build an Adobe Builder application hosted in Adobe Runtime, Adobe Runtime has an own eventing system, and if you want to do any business logic based on the events happening in Adobe Commerce, you need to subscribe to the Adobe Commerce event. So for example, customer save, order place, whatever else. If you're working with Adobe Commerce as PHP developer, then you know there is available extension points like observers and plugins. And those you can use for your Adobe Builder application also. So what you can do, you can subscribe to observer event which been executed in Adobe Commerce, receive this event in your Adobe Builder and build the business logic around it. That's what we want to do today. So let's jump into the configuration, and if you'll go to your system config Adobe Service adobeio events, you will see here already the configuration, how you can configure. Basically, it's a way how you can tell the whole Adobe Runtime infrastructure, hey, I'm here, that's Adobe Commerce System XYZ, which is an event provider. So I'm providing the events outside, which can be consumed by the runtime, and some particular actions can be executed. And here is a module which is doing this configuration. So to start to work with events, you have to go to your module, into the Adobe console, and you have to, so we want to receive events from Adobe Commerce. So we want to add Adobe Commerce events, Adobe events for Adobe Commerce. That's something you want to add. We already have house to house, so that's all fine, and we just add in the new event provider. So that's kind of mechanism which easy the way to connect between Adobe Commerce and Adobe Runtime, and in particular for your extension. Now let's connect to systems. First of all, we have OAuth here. GVT is not working at all anymore, so it's not only deprecated, it's not supported. So you need to first of all provide your adobeio workspace configuration. For that, you go into your application, go into workspace overview, and then you download in the file. If you download the file, it will look like following, which is basically just the metadata of your application. And you need to select all, go back to your module, paste it here, and that's it. Then you also have this commerce events section. So you have to enable it for sure. You define the merchant ID, which is your own system name or merchant name. I mean, it can be your customer name, and then environment. For me, it's a staging environment. Then you also define provider instance ID. So basically you have provider instance ID, that's an instance of your Adobe Commerce system, but when you create an event provider, like a register event provider, you will also receive UID from the Adobe infrastructure, and this UID can be used for all further communication between systems on API level. So I have here Commerce Pass, I'm on Pass now, that's why it's Pass. So I will save this config. And now I can create event provider. So basically register my system within the Adobe Commerce. Register my system within Adobe Runtime. Let's create it. That's a good point. So I already registered it and I defined the name. So the name have to be unique within the whole of your systems. If you have multiple Adobe Commerce system, take care that the name is unique. Let me modify it. Let me save it again. And let me then create it again. Done. So I have save my data, and the extension automatically registered my instance within Adobe Runtime. I receive event provider ID, and I can send the config. I even think it's already saved, but just for the security. Additionally, with this Adobe Commerce module, which usually in the standard currently, you have also other elements which could be interesting for you. So first of all, you have events list. That's all events which are currently available, which you can subscribe to. Another point is the event status. So when something is happening in the system and already been subscribed here for multiple of them, again, for customer save after, you can see the status of them, that they've been sent or not sent, retries count, updated, created, and so on. So quite interesting dashboard, and we will come back to it later. And what also you can do, you can register multiple providers. So basically you can have multiple extensions connected to the same Adobe Commerce system that you can receive and manipulate the events between multiple systems. And if it's interesting, I can make another detailed video about this one. Again, it's not part of the basics, so we don't need it currently, but yeah. Let's come back to our configuration. So we more or less registered everything we need here. Now we want to subscribe to event, and in our case for Adobe Commerce Save. So I'm currently on the Adobe Commerce Cloud server, and to do it, you need to run the bin magento command. Like, that's the easiest way. There are multiple other ways, and again, I will paste documentation under the video. But the easiest way is to subscribe with bin magento event subscribe command. Hope it's visible well, honestly. It's bin magento event subscribe. Then you define the event name, that what we saw in Adobe Commerce backend. Then you define the fields you want to receive. So usually please not subscribe blindly to everything, because you first of all don't need everything. Second, you can accidentally share the information you don't want to share, like private data and so on. So I want to receive first name, last name, and ID of this customer. That's it. And after you will hit this event, you see the subscription observer customer save after was successfully created. So technically, my system already will send the information when the customer been saved to the as a provider I defined to the runtime. Now let's come back to our extension and subscribe to this event. So event is registered to the runtime, and to subscribe it, you can click Add Service Event. Then you can choose commerce events here. There are also third-party events you can also use for more advanced use cases, but for the commerce events, you use in the commerce events. And then here is it. So that's our PowerPack Commerce Pass 2 we just created like minutes ago. And also, you see there is already observer event customer save available. So it means you just subscribe to the event that when the customer has been saved, you're doing some action. Customer saved. And now you have three options. First of all, you can call the webhook after the runtime receive event. It just will automatically send it to the some webhook action. That's it. You can run runtime action. So basically, that's our actions, which if you remember, we deployed before: save user, delete list, and our hello world. So as example, I want to say save user action have to be called. You can also have Amazon to event bridge if you want to. I mean, I honestly never used it. And then save configuration. At this point, we are more or less done. So we have subscribed to event. Everything is here. You can see debug tracing here if you want to. That's an activities or when your event been fired and processed. That's a challenge pro. The first one you usually have after you just register on it. You have event browser if you want to see the past events also. So there's like a journaling API provided by Adobe, which allow you to iterate through all events which executed in past, I believe for last 2 days or 3 days, not remember exactly. And to see them, you can also filter them if you want to. But we'll come back to debug tracing. So let's do some action. I have here the test user. I can go to the user. We have demo. Let's do basics course. Let's save the customer. What we can do, we go on to event status and see our customer save after. The events usually been exported 1 per minute by cron job, so we can maybe need to wait just a little bit. Success. So we don't have any errors. The event been consumed by the runtime, it's made something with it, don't know what, so we can go and check. The easiest way to go and check is to go here to our debug tracing list, refresh it, and we see response code 400, but we received an event. So we have a payload. We have in a payload here basic course, ID of the customer, everything is here. That's cool. But the response code is 400 and response's name is required. Why? Because when we build our action, the user list or the user save, we build it based on the data we're receiving from the front-end application. In this case, we're receiving it from Adobe Commerce, then the format is not matching. That's it. We just need to change the format. I prepared an action here already. I have here the new action, which I registered in app-config. That's it. Customer, Adobe Commerce customer. You can just reuse the same action if you want to, just make some if-else condition, depends on the body you're receiving. I was lazy enough and just created a new action. And this action just receiving the information, first name, last name, and NID from Adobe Commerce and saving it. Let me deploy it. So we deployed it. Now let's go to application, go to registration detail, and we can edit event registration. Why we want to do it? Because we want to change the target. And nothing to change, but we can change the target, and target in our case now is okay. That's a good point. So I've made it several times, but console is caching some inputs, so or basically we're not fetching, they've been loaded on a page load and been not refreshed afterwards. So if you're making some modification or deploying new action, you need to refresh the page just to get in latest data. Let's try it again. So you see, now we have more here and we have this secured Adobe Commerce customer. Let's save it now. Here is it. Now it's another action. And now let's change our customer again. Let's make basics version 2. Save it. While we are waiting, I just want to show you there is a documentation for adobeio events for Adobe Commerce, and there are a bunch of the setup you can do, like starting from a builder project. That's what we just created. That's a configuration, to configure event provider, subscribe to events, and all other stuff. So we basically made a lot of this basic stuff. You can also add custom fields if you want to. You can manipulate it with IO events, XML configurations. There's also an API available to subscribe to different events. You can also use this one. So the area is like really huge for events manipulation. That's not something we can fit in the basics, and it's honestly not really a basics. Working quite a lot with the builder, I still haven't touched a lot of those points. So I believe the status have to be now success, yes, and we will not check in the admin UI, we will check in our extension. So here is our module, here is our customer, been landed correctly, edit here. We can delete it and do an opposite. So when you delete this one, the event has been sent to Adobe Commerce for delete the customer via the API, for example. But yeah, that's just one example or one use case how you can use it. And that's literally it. Again, as I said, the field of usage is really huge. I showed just a basic example how it can be configured and how it can be used. If you have some more complex, interesting use cases you want to hear about, let me know. But I guess that's it for now. I hope it was interesting. I mean, this set of the seven lessons, I covered like the most commonly used use cases in my experience on a basic level for sure. So there's like a code which you saw there is a minimum required to achieve this functionality. If you want to go more complex, you need to check documentation. Also, feel free to check my videos. There are a lot of different use cases described there already. And if you want to see something else and something more, please let me know. I will be really happy to share it and to support you. Hope you enjoy it. I really want to hear some feedback if it makes sense for you, if you like this format, if you don't like this format, please also let me know. And see you in the next videos. Bye bye.